My name is, well, I wear a lot of hats. Lama David Bole, or Lama Losang. My ordained name is Karma Lodo Zangpo, which means excellent intelligence, but it's condensed to Losang. It's like a contraction. So some of my students call me Lama Losang. Some of my patients call me Dr. Bole. So again, I wear a lot of hats when I'm here as well. Some of you know I see patients here. I'm also acupuncture physician and use Asian medicine, acupuncture, herbal medicine, body work, a variety of things to balance body, mind, spirit. Asian medicine doesn't really discriminate between physical, mental, emotional kinds of things. They are all kind of go together. You can't treat the body without affecting the mind. You can't affect the mind without affecting the body. So this system of medicine is very effective for all kinds of things. Particularly the kinds of degenerative things, migraines, arthritis. You know, many of you have had some experience with acupuncture and herbs and know its value. It's a very powerful tool. Part of what I do besides the healing work is, which is also healing work, Dharma studies. I'm a fully ordained monk in the Karma-Kagyu tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, and you know, my teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, was the abbot of a monastery in near Woodstock, New York, in the mountains of the Catskills. Was my retreat master, and after finishing 3.5 years of retreat, he said, "Go and you know, teach." So I'm on a mission. So I think more than ever, you know, this time is very anxiety-provoking with health, with the finances, you know, the economy, and wars and all kinds of things. It's a stressful time, and people are looking for peace of mind. I think the most important thing that we could have is peace of mind. So what is it that we can do to achieve this kind of state of peace in our lives? And one of the things that the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago is meditation. And we could really sum up all of the Buddhist teachings very simply in a nutshell: to cultivate virtuous activity, and to refrain from doing negative actions, and to tame our mind. And meditation is a part of that. Tame the mind. Right livelihood is about you know, positive action in the world, and to do no harm, you know, both to ourselves and others. And although that sounds simple in practicality, you know, not to lie, not to steal, not to kill, not to engage in negative actions and use intoxicants that just really distort our mind and lead to all other kinds of things, are the lay vows that a person can take in the Buddhist tradition. A monk has more vows than that, but the idea here, it's not a limitation, it's a way of progressing along the path gracefully and without too many obstacles and dead ends. So I feel very happy and privileged to have the teachers that I've had, and to have taken full ordination as a Tibetan Buddhist monk in the Kagyu tradition. So there are 4 lineages in the Buddhist tradition: the Nyingma tradition, which is the oldest of the traditions; the Gelug tradition of the Dalai Lamas. You probably have heard of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He's the head of the Gelug tradition. Excuse me. And that is a scholarly tradition of study and debate. Really, the Dalai Lama oversees all of Tibetan Buddhism. You know, he's the spiritual head. He recently gave up his the kind of mundane political head. He was also the kind of president of Tibet in a certain kind of way. But with the political changes in Tibet, he has given up any kind of political orientation. Is now just spiritual head of really Tibetan Buddhism in general. There are other Buddhisms besides, or Buddhist traditions besides Tibetan. You're familiar with the Zen tradition of Japan, the Chan tradition of China, the Southeast Asian traditions. Some of you may be familiar with Thich Nhat Hanh, but Sandy, could I get a little water, please? Thank you. But all these traditions have come from the Buddha, who was a historical figure. Lived 2,500 years ago, and we are still influenced by the teachings of the Shakyamuni Buddha, who was a prince, came from a kingdom. His father, Shuddhadana, was the king of a small kingdom in what is now Nepal. He grew up at the time, pretty luxuriously, and his father kind of tried to keep him from worldly activities, because at the time of his birth, the story is that at 16, his mother Mayadeva had a dream of a six-tusked white elephant, which is a very auspicious symbol, that entered her. And she, thank you. Great. And she was pregnant. She, at the time when what was to be the Buddha was to be born, she went on retreat, was in isolation. She gave birth to this child very auspiciously. As it is said, she put her hand up on a branch of a tree. The Buddha came out of her side, stood up and said, "I am here to benefit all beings." Walked around, flowers grew up, and a wonderful story. And as he grew, well, the king asked the soothsayers, the astrologers of the time, what is the story with this child? What will his future be? And they said he would be a very auspicious world leader, or he would be the leader and affect many people as a spiritual guru. So the king wanted him to be to take over his kingdom, the palace, and all of the responsibilities that go with that. And he was being groomed for that, was very intelligent. And but there was something about worldly life that did not appeal so much. He saw the old age, sickness, and death, and knew that this life was impermanent and ephemeral, and decided at a young age to abandon the family and seek what would be called his enlightenment, and studied, and at one point they said, "I am determined to achieve this state of enlightenment," sat under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, and attained a state that we call enlightenment. And this is the teachings of the Buddha are revolutionary in that he said we all contain this Buddha nature. We all have this seed of enlightenment within us, and we can attain the same realization. Again, Buddha was not a god. Buddhism is a non-theistic kind of tradition, and the Buddha said that this is not peculiar to me, and it has been, there are many people who have attained the state of enlightenment. And in this era, this eon of time, the Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha of this age, is the fourth. There will be 1,000 Buddhas. There was 3 before him. He was the fourth of this eon. The next one will be Maitreya. The time after that will be a person who is now known as Karmapa, Lion's Roar. And there is a number of 1,000, all listed by name, what time, what era they will come. And so there's not just one Buddha. We are all Buddhas. It's just a matter of our discovering it, to waking up to it. When the Buddha first became enlightened, he said, "I am awake." We have awakened from the dream, the illusion of this temporal, physical existence that is passing. And so all of the teachings can be really summarized, like I say, to cultivate the virtue, to avoid doing harm, and to tame the mind. So we're going to do some meditation along the way. How many of you have had some experience with meditation? Raise your hand, please. And how many are you new to meditation, have no experience? Okay, great. There's a book called Zen Mind, Beginner Mind, which is a thing for all of us to remember that, but the meditation is always fresh. It's like you can't step in the same stream twice. The things are always moving along. So in terms of meditation, one rests, the mind in its natural state, without expectation, without any kind of anticipation, and just like letting the sediment the fall in a glass of water, the natural clarity of the mind becomes manifest. So meditation is a way of beginning to still, quiet the mind. Its intention is to achieve its natural mind, which we have, but because of all of our thinking and planning and decision making and reflecting on the past, projecting into the future, rarely are we in this moment with this tranquility or peace. And meditation is about really understanding the nature of the mind. The word gom, G-O-M, is the Tibetan word for meditation, and it means becoming familiar with. So what we're becoming familiar with is our own mind. And that requires a little practice, just like any other skill. If you want to be a surgeon, it requires some training. If you want to become a world-class athlete, it requires some training. If you want to be a concert pianist, it requires some training. If you want to know your mind, it requires some training. So again, the idea here is that we all, I think, whatever it is we do, is to try to be happy and to try to achieve some peace of mind. And the meditation and the teachings of the Buddha really are to avoid suffering and to be happy. That's repeatedly, there are bodhisattvas who come to help us achieve that. So from the time of the Buddha, in an unbroken chain, these lineages have prospered, and from teacher to student, from the time of the Buddha to this present time, these pure lineages, as I was mentioning, just like the light, there's a line, electricity that goes to the light that allows it to come on when you flip the switch. In a similar way, lineage, which comes from that same root word line, there's an unbroken line that can turn on the light of your understanding. So this lineage that I'm associated with, the Karmakaju tradition, whose leader is the Karmapa, who is living in India. He escaped from Tibet, which is, as you know, is under his practices were being suppressed by the Chinese invasion. So he's living in India now. He has come to the United States, and KTD, Karmatriyana Dharma Chakra, this monastery that I mentioned in the Catskills near Woodstock, is his North American home, and we'll hear more about the Karmapa as the days go on and his kind of activity begins to flourish more and more. So I was talking about the four schools, the Nyingma school, the Karmakaju school, or the Kagyu school, the Gelug school of the Dalai Lamas, and the Shakya, four schools. We talk about it's interesting to know that, reincarnation and karma, these kinds of things that we hear about are very important tenets in the Buddhist tradition. And the 14th Dalai Lama, you will hear, when you see his title, it'll say 14th Dalai Lama. That means he has been reincarnated 14 times. The first of these reincarnated tulkus was actually the Karmapa, and he is the 17th Karmapa in this tradition. And for the Karmapa, for example, 17 times before he passes away, he writes down where he'll be found, the name of his parents, the name of his the valley where he'll be, or all the information that's needed for his senior students to go and get him. And if you've seen Kundun, or there's been a number of different movies that kind of portray this. So if anyone has any doubt about reincarnation, this is pretty clearly an indication that these enlightened masters can tell you, they know the future, they know the past. It's hard to wrap our head around omniscience, but omniscience, they know past, present, and future. So they can write down, yes, I know who my parents will be, I know when I'll be born next, I know all those things, so here it is. In 7 years in Tibet, I think there was a thing where the Dalai Lama, new Dalai Lama, was presented with several things. Is mala, a mala is like a rosary where you count your people who do mantra recitation to achieve a certain practice. When it says so many mantras like Om Mani Padme Hum, some of you may be familiar with that mantra. It's a common mantra of Chenrezig, actually, the Bodhisattva of loving kindness and compassion, who is over my head. So they laid out these things, glasses, mala, cane, cup, different things, and he'd come in and say, yeah, this is my mala from last time, these are my glasses, and they'd have all kinds of things, and he would choose the ones that belonged to him. There's a story about my teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, who knew the previous Karmapa, the 16th Karmapa. And when he went to visit the new incarnation, the 17th Karmapa at the time of his induction, ordination, he had an interview with him. And as soon as the Karmapa saw the Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, he called him by a very special name that the 16th Karmapa would always call him, that no one else knew. This was kind of a special thing. So that was a corroboration to Khenpo Rinpoche that indeed this is my teacher returned, and he immediately broke into tears. You know, it brings tears to my eyes to think about that, but it is a very special bond that a teacher has with their student, and the student has with their teacher in that way. So he is, the 17th Karmapa, is his activity has begun. He's very much interested in the environment. And as a younger person, he's relates to he's on a computer and he's Facebook and all these kinds of things, which is pretty far out. So anyway, we'll have some opportunity. Any question about anything so far? We really will have an opportunity to talk, hopefully answer all of your questions about Buddhism if it's new to you, or meditation if it's new to you. But by the time you leave, hopefully you'll have an understanding and an ability to rest the mind and be able to do some level of meditation. Again, there's a little learning curve that goes with that, and people say, oh, I can't meditate, you know, my mind is too restless, or I don't have the time. But if you have a body, if you have a mind, and if you can breathe, you can meditate. So, did you have a question?
I was curious, you said earlier there were thousands
Buddhists?
that have been named, and it's the 14th Dalai Lama and the 17th,
These the 14th Dalai Lama and the 17th Karmapa are current incarnations of this manifestation of Chenrezig, like a ray of his energy. But they are not the Buddhas. The Karmapa actually will be the 6th Buddha in this chain. So they come back. Bodhisattva, the enlightened mind of the Bodhisattva is about one thing and one thing only. It's about removing suffering and helping people achieve peace of mind and realization. So everything they do, their skillful actions in the world, are about waking us up. And they return repeatedly with that intention. They've made aspirations from beginningless time to be of benefit to people. And that aspiration has become made manifest, you know, in this particular physical body. They don't look like that, Chenrezig necessarily, but their activity is like that, and they have that, that quality. Sure.
So the people that are around them, like the parents of the newly born, how do they know?
The parents don't often. They know when the team comes to retrieve him, and it's usually quite a blessing, you know. The people of Tibet are so devotional. I mean, doing prostrations around rocky places, around stupas, which represent the mind of the Buddha, these large kind of statue kind of things. They are very devoted. And for someone to come and say, your son is the Dalai Lama or the Karmapa, is like, wow, you couldn't expect anything more wonderful than that if you're a Buddhist practitioner. So, and they give him up, you know, to be taught and to continue his studies. So that's how it works, you know. The student finds the incarnation. They educate him, although usually, even at a young age, they're educating their students once again. And then that goes, you know, they get older and the students pass away, and the cycle just keeps going like that. So let's sit for a little bit. Sit comfortably, spine straight. The Buddha's first instruction about meditation is to sit comfortably. Usually, you know, cross-legged, whether it's in full lotus or vajra position, or one leg in front of the other in what's called tailor posture, or sitting in a chair. You know, you're meditating with your mind. I suggest when you meditate at home that you not lay down, because the obvious will happen. You know, most of us are pretty sleep deprived, and if you lay down and close your eyes, the next thing you know, you're going to be out. So meditation is not sleeping. It is actually an active process. We want to establish the nature of the mind is clear and aware. We have this awareness constantly, but usually we fill it with all kinds of thoughts, feelings, emotions. But by itself, it is just clear awareness. So we're kind of getting back to that pure state, but that is not, doesn't happen quite so readily. It requires, as I said, there's a little learning curve that goes with that to begin to train the mind. So sit comfortably, spine straight. The hands, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche teaches to have the thumb in the ring joint, the finger like this, a gentle fist, and on the knees, that's fine. You can have palm down. You might see, you know, these different, this is the mudra of truthfulness. There's the mudra of equanimity. These mudras attract a particular quality, a particular virtue. So this one helps to stabilize the mind so it's not quite so active. This lion's paw. Yeah, it's fine to sit if you're comfortable sitting, but feet are flat on the floor. If the feet don't touch the floor for some reason, if you're in a chair, you know, put a pillow or something underneath your feet so they're not just kind of dangling. You want to have that firmness, stability. We'll pull up gently on the anal sphincter. Just hold it for a moment and then release and relax. Chin is slightly tucked in, keeping the upper cervical vertebrae a little straighter. Tongue is gently touching the roof in back of the upper, the teeth, on the upper palate. That prevents saliva and swallowing. That can be a little disturbing. So the next part is maybe a little bit different than the way you're used to meditating, for those of you who meditate. The eyes are going to be slightly opened. Not overly excited, but slightly opened so that you can see light. And looking at a place about a 45-degree angle down, an imaginary spot about 2 feet in front or so. You can just, whatever is comfortable for you, but the gaze down helps to slow the mind down. Usually our mind is pretty restless and engaged in many, many thoughts. Lowering the gaze softens that, that mind activity. Eyes unfocused and relaxed. So feel the straightness of the spine, feel relaxed. Relax the belly, relax the breathing. Head's on straight again, but the eyes are just cast down. So we want to, as if you're being suspended from the heavens by a string. Everything is just straight, spine straight. And then let your awareness come to the breath. And you can just feel the expansion on the inhale, a kind of contraction maybe on the exhale. Cool at the nostrils on the inhale, warm on the exhale. Just let the breath breathe you in a very uncontrived way. We're not trying to force the breath in any way, make it fast or slow. Just let it be whatever way it is, and we're just going to follow it. It's just like kind of riding a wave. Again, I'm from Florida, and you can just kind of imagine being on a warm sea, just rising and falling with the breath, gently like floating on a warm sea. In the beginning, sometimes it's helpful to just count the breath. So we're inhaling, exhaling 1. Inhaling, exhaling 2. Now, inevitably, thoughts will come to mind. So we're not trying to push them away, but when they come into our awareness, we just recognize it as thinking and don't follow the thought. Just bring the awareness back to the breathing, back to your body, and back to this precious moment. And there's a little lightness, there's a, a little smile in your heart. We have such gratitude. We are so fortunate to have the leisure time to be here together, to have the instructions of the Buddha available. There'll be a time when the Buddha's teachings will pass away. That'll be a very kind of dark time. Seems like we're headed in that direction. And then the Buddha's teaching will be brought back again with the next Buddha to come. with Maitreya. But we're fortunate now that we do have the teachings of the Buddha available. We have a guide, and we can tame our mind. We have the proper direction. So let your awareness come to the breath, and just count to 21. Breathing in, breathing out 1. You may pause a little bit at the bottom of the exhalation. Just relax a little. Inhale, exhale 2, like that, to the count of 21. And imagine the mind spacious, expansive, like the sky itself, and any little thought or feeling like a cloud in that great expanse having its moment of arising and just dissolving back into emptiness. The thought itself is self-liberating. That means that if you don't follow it, if you don't give it any energy, it'll just naturally dissolve like a cloud dissolving in a spacious sky. So you're aware of what's going on around you. You may hear sounds, they'll just wash over you. You may be aware of your body. Maintain that uprightness. Relax the belly and just follow the breath. A little smile in the heart of gratitude and well-being. And let the breath be just natural and relaxed. Let the body be natural and relaxed. Let the mind be natural and relaxed. Okay, you can come back. So that introduction, that was somewhere around 21 breaths, I would imagine. And how was that for you? Can anyone comment on able to do it okay? Any problem? Was your mind kind of taking you away from time to time? Were you able to actually get from 1 to 21 breaths and stay plugged in? How'd it go? Give me your feedback, please.
The eyes open was tricky.
Yeah, the eyes open is different. I'm going to encourage you to practice with that. The problem when we close our eyes and we have that blank screen, actually, can be more kind of movies going on there. When we have the eyes open, it kind of stops that a little bit. And there's more possibility of falling asleep too. The head starts to nod. And so having the eyes open, and as you progress along the path, there's other reasons for that as well. So it may be different, but like I was saying, it's kind of a learning curve to seeing how that is with the eyes open. Next time we do it, you might find that it's a little easier. So your eyes just naturally wanted to close. Is that what was happening? Yeah. Okay. So that's, anyone else? Please, I would like the feedback.
No, sometimes when I meditate, my expectation is that it'll be this really like serene and peaceful experience. And sometimes when I sit down, it is like I'm very much a to-do list person, and so I feel like my to-do list.
You are not alone in that, I will tell you.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it just seems like, oh, now you're quiet. Here we go.
Yeah.
These are all the things that would be really great for you to do.
That's right.
And then I find that I'm out of my meditation. I'm just thinking, yeah, that's right. But I still visually, I'm still there, but it's just like my mind is on my to-do list.
Yeah, that's very normal. So as soon as a thought, it's a thought, it starts with that kind of thought, oh, to-do list, and just bring your awareness back to the breathing. And it'll be right there again, back. I mean, as soon as you bring it back, it's right back there, to-do list. It's like, walking with a little child on the path and it's attracted to the butterfly and the flower and the thing. And you say, come on, gently. So gently, bring it back. But as time goes on, I mean, often in the beginning, the analysis or the analogy is like a waterfall, and these thoughts are just cascading one after another, and it's like you think you're going to go crazy. I mean, you can't shut this off. And, well, you know how it is when you're trying to fall asleep at night sometimes. It's like, forget it. Your mind is just so active. So there's other secondary gains with meditation. One is to be able to, again, place it and have it be there. So I will guarantee you that what you're experiencing is not so different from the experience of other people here. I appreciate you sharing that. But then from that, it becomes a river, sometimes torrential, moving along at a pretty good clip, but it's not quite the same as the waterfall. And then gradually it begins to slow down and it becomes a pool, maybe a little ripple with the wind, but it becomes more still, more relaxed, more at ease. That's the natural state of the mind, without all this activity going on. But we're used to that. We never really look at it, and see just, wow, that's really a lot of stuff going on in there. So continually, it requires practice. So I'm going to suggest that you do it every day, even if it's for 21 breaths. But as you become a little bit more adept, you can go a little bit longer. And the counting is just like a little method. It's a little trick to have the mind focused a little bit more, something to attend to. Then gradually we're going to it's like training wheels when we're riding a bike. It keeps us on track. But gradually we take off the training wheels. Gradually we'll take off the counting, and you'll just rest the mind in its natural state, which is clear awareness without distraction. But that doesn't happen right off. So this is the beginning. It's called shamatara tranquility meditation. And we're beginning to just slow that process down a little bit. To rest the mind in the state for an extended period of time requires practice. But that's real wisdom begins to manifest. You really have a certain experiences at that point. But don't look for experience. Don't have any anticipation. Oh, this is a good meditation, or judge. We're judging all the time, everything. This is good, this is bad. Oh, I didn't like that sound, it was a little tinny. Or, oh, wow, that was really great sound. We just don't hear sound without judging it. We do that all the time. Yes, was there another question? Yes, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, normally I can relate to that. My mind is just
We all can.
1,000 miles an hour. But today, I was either asleep with my eyes open slightly or in a deep meditation state because it was so peaceful. And I don't know, is it possible that I fell asleep with my eyes open?
It is possible. You can go into a little stupor. And that's not meditation, but it could also be, and you would know the difference. You would have the awareness of being present with the breath. Did you keep count of the breath?
No.
You were asleep. That's the difference. That is a big obstacle. That is a big obstacle. Yeah, thank you for asking the question, because that is a big hindrance. You know, am I doing it right? And we do that all the time. Well, you know, I'm not sure, I can't do this, and that is a big obstacle, the doubt. So understand that when you do it, you have the intention to follow the breath. If thoughts come, you recognize the thought, and the doubt is, as I said, is an obstacle. And there's a certain vajra. Usually we think of pride as being a negative thing, you know, but we have to understand there's a certain vajra pride, knowing that you are a Buddha, that you have the seed of that enlightenment within you, and that's a important thing to remember. That all you have to do is just relax. There's nothing that you really need to do. You already have it. It's like a nugget of gold that has always been there, maybe covered with a bunch of muck, but the gold is still the gold. It's untouched, unaffected by the muck. So when you're sitting and you have the doubt, remember that you are Buddha, that you have the seed of your enlightenment there, and we are onion peel layer by onion peel layer getting rid of the doubt, the negative kleshas, our pride, our anger, our different, and it's going to bubble up. You know, it's going to be there. And you say, oh, interesting. It's almost, you know, we look at the mind with a certain detachment. The feelings, emotions will come up, and the doubt is one of those. And we just recognize it's just another feeling, another emotion, another thought. No more, no less than any other one. So we don't have to put any, say, oh, doubt, that's a big deal. Or, you know, for someone else, it'll be something else. But it's just another thought, another cloud in the sky. Comes, it goes. Yeah. Yes, please.
Could you speak of physical discomfort while you're meditating?
Yeah, as I was saying, the first rule here is sit comfortably. So whether it's, and if you're sitting in a chair, I should have mentioned that you want to sit somewhat forward so you're having the spine straight and not leaning back, because that actually will create some discomfort. So we want to have the spine straight and the body posture correct. So I also teach Tai Chi, martial arts, those kinds of things. And a person will have most discomfort and hurt themselves if they're not in the right posture. If they're holding this posture and their knee is torqued out to one side and they don't have their weight distributed properly. Similarly, when we're in this posture, and you know, yoga itself, the hatha yoga, the physical postures, were really designed to help relax the body so it can sit for longer periods of time without distraction. So doing yoga, having a physically strong body is important for your sitting practice so you're not, you know, distracted by pains, but there will come. And so we're aware of the pain. Sometimes you may need to move it a little bit or direct your attention, if it's a knee, to your knee, and internally give yourself the suggestion to relax the knee. Just thinking the thought brings the energy to that spot. So you can put your hand on it, whatever the situation is. You may need to move. But physical pain, of course, we have these physical bodies, so that's inevitable. But how we manage that, and it's also somewhat mental. We can just breathe and say, pain. Pain is such a relative phenomenon. Some people have, we say, high pain tolerance. Some people have low pain tolerance. But pain is generally experienced in the mind in that way. So how we manage that is going to be very interesting. Some people, if you need to get up and move, that's fine. If you need to rub it a little bit, that's fine. What was your experience with the pain? Was it distracting to you?
It's kind of a muscular thing in the back.
Mm-hmm. Were you leaning back or were you sitting forward?
Sitting forward.
Okay, maintain that. And you may be, just like meditation is developing mental muscle, we also have to get familiar with the physical posture. So it may take a little time, and I encourage you to stretch a little bit beforehand. We may, you know, it doesn't take a lot to kind of get things, you know, loosened up a little bit and take care of your body. It's a blessing, you know. One of the things that turn the mind to Dharma is this precious human birth. Not everyone has this birth, these bodies, this mind that has all the causes and conditions to be able to do the meditation and recognize the nature of mind. So we have to think about this as a great blessing. So preserving the body, working with the body, the mind, the spirit, and maximizing this. Life is short. You know, we know, none of us know how long we have here. So that's the Buddha taught 4 thoughts that turn the mind to Dharma. The first being this precious human birth, to have the causes and conditions, the leisure time actually to practice. You may not think you have leisure time, but you do. I mean, the time that you spend on the computer or watching TV, or if you put 10, 15 minutes into meditation, you'd have something lasting that would be of true benefit to you. So people say, I don't have enough time. I don't really buy it. Even 5 minutes is a start. And to set up a little shrine or altar or sacred space in your room would be great. You just have a little cushion, a little pillow, maybe a little incense, a flower, something that you know, turns the mind to a sacred aspect that you go, like, you know, you sleep in your bedroom, you eat in your kitchen, you do certain things. When you meditate in a place that is designed for that, and immediately your mind is kind of trained like that. Yes?
What about music?
I suggest you not. Because the mind, being as facile as it is, it'll go with the music, it'll be waiting for the next note, or then it'll stop and then you're someplace else, or it'll remind you of something else. The less stimulation in that regard, the better. For relaxation, music is fine. There's all kinds of so-called meditation music. But for this purpose, I would suggest you just be with the breath. And turn off your cell phones. If you haven't turned off your cell phone yet, turn off your cell phone so you don't embarrass yourself and disturb everyone else. But when you're in your sacred space, keep it, you know, neutral without distraction.